The Golden State Warriors have been fantastic this year, as we all well know, and as a result of this, there's been a ton of credit thrown around. Of course, most of it to Stephen Curry, Draymond Green, the Golden State Warriors system, Steve Kerr, Jordan Poole, for those who feel like he came out of nowhere, but if you knew, you knew. It's okay if you didn't, but he didn't come out of nowhere. But someone who I think has not been given quite enough credit is the guy who is the team's second leading scorer, the best wing defender on the team, and overall just really fucking good player, Andrew Wiggins. Andrew Wiggins this year has taken the improvements he made in his first full year with the Warriors and only built on them further, all while this play has contributed to winning more than it ever has before. So today I wanted to talk about Andrew Wiggins and how his game has evolved to allow him to fully redeem himself into just becoming a way better player, and how that has helped the Golden State Warriors. So let's get into it. Before I continue on with this video, about half the people who watch these videos are not subscribed, so if you fall in that 50%, then please subscribe. Also drop a like on this video. It only takes 1 second, it makes a massive difference. I'm really trying to hit 200k subscribers on this channel by the end of the year, and I'm coming down to the wire on that as the last month, obviously, so I'm trying to upload daily in December in order to achieve that. So if you are new here and you enjoyed this video, please subscribe. Also, check out the most recent deep dive on this channel called The Plight of the Robin if you have not already. Andrew Wiggins this year is averaging 18 points per game on 58% shooting, which is not exactly all that different from last year, statistically speaking, but the difference has really been more the eye test, as well as the fact that the Warriors have been winning, and it feels even more like Wiggins has bought into this system. Really, this year is not that different than last year for Wiggins himself, but the Warriors are very different, and as a result, the changes in Andrew's game just feel more final. Like, this is officially who Andrew Wiggins is. He's taking the lowest volume of mid-range shots in his career, he is taking the fewest amount of isolation shots overall, and he's had multiple games this year where he was a huge part of the Warriors' offense. He's dropped 25 points or more 5 times this year, including a 35-point game on 74% shooting against the Timberwolves. Really, the only offense that he's creating for himself is the occasional mid-range jumper, which I don't think will ever be fully eradicated from his game, unfortunately. And the occasional drive, which he's actually been really, really good at this year, as he's shooting a career-high 74% at the basket, which is really, really good for a non-big. So this year, the transformation for Wiggins is in full swing. Everything that was his strength has only been further built upon, and the Warriors are winning as a result of that, on top of many other things. So what exactly was that transformation? Well, the Warriors weeded out his weaknesses and amplified his strengths. Looking at Wiggins as a player when the Warriors got him, he was essentially a player miscast in a role he was not built for. In reality, Wiggins is a 3-and-D player built for a system that would allow him to focus on his defense, his 3-ball, and the occasional cut drive and fast break opportunity. But in Minnesota, he was utilized as a primary ball handler, an isolation mid-range scorer, post-up player, really the sole perimeter initiator for their offense, period. This led to some high point per game seasons, however, just abysmal efficiency, and the Timberwolves being one of the worst offenses in the league. Now, stamping out Andrew's mid-range attempts was definitely the easiest way to ramp up his efficiency. Wiggins is a classic example of something that I say a lot, which is just because you see a player take a lot of mid-range shots does not mean he's actually good at them. He's a great example. John Wall is a great example. Wiggins has had a very high volume of his shots from between 10 feet and the 3-point line for his career in Minnesota, averaging 33% of his shots from there, even more being from long two, which is even worse, and he was shooting 35% on them for his career. In Golden State, by contrast, he has just 20% of his shots from there and just 17% from there this season. Now, his splits on those shots are still not ideal, but being that that number was cut in half, the consequences of his dumb mid-range shots are not there, on top of the fact that Wiggins is just shooting the ball less, period. so that means it's even less shots than just cut in half. The jumpers that previously probably would have been a couple of mid-range jumpers have now been turned into 3-point shots, which is obviously significantly more efficient. But on top of just taking them, he's also been making them way better, which I would just chalk up to some internal improvement, as well as maybe some advice with playing with two of the greatest shooters of all time. Andrew was a career 33% shooter on 3.5 attempts in Minnesota. He is now a 38% shooter on 5 attempts in Golden State, which that percentage and volume is not crazy good, but it's good. And he used to be bad, so definitely a big improvement. And then of course, the biggest change by far has been the defense. Andrew Wiggins coming into the NBA was someone who was expected to be a really good defender, but he was fucking awful, so that didn't work out. I think a lot of that is to be blamed on environment, and that kind of brings me to my overall point by the end of the video, but we'll hold it off for now. But I really think the difference with his defense especially came down to the environment, because Minnesota was a losing culture that didn't have a defensive identity whatsoever. Then he goes to Golden State, where they have Draymond Green at the helm, who preaches a defensive identity, Steve Kerr, who preaches defense, a lot of wing defenders in their history. And he goes there and suddenly he's just a way better defensive player. And I really think that's a product of the environment, on top of the fact that he's just asked to do less offensively, which is for the betterment of both sides of the ball. Andrew is an incredibly good perimeter defender, and honestly, he is genuinely an all-defensive candidate right now. He might not make it, but he's up there, and being that the Warriors are one of the best defenders in the league and he's the second best defender on the team, I would not be shocked if he managed to achieve that. I really think the case of Andrew Wiggins is the perfect case study in the impact of your culture and your environment. Wiggins turned from an inefficient shot chucker who contributed nothing outside of those inefficient shots to one of the best defenders in the league who fits nearly seamlessly in one of the best offenses in the game while being the second leading scorer, save for a few bad mid-range pull-ups or fadeaways, but ultimately you can live with that. Overall, Andrew Wiggins is a really good NBA player. When he used to be a straight up bad player, which I feel like a lot of people don't properly appreciate, is that Andrew Wiggins was bad with the Timberwolves because his offense wasn't good because of how inefficient he was. He was an awful defender, awful playmaker, absolute black hole when he had the ball. Just a negative offensively by a small degree, because at least he did score at a high volume, and then his defense was abysmal. So he was a bad player. In Golden State, he is a really good, and dare I say, even borderline all-star kind of guy, at least this season. Don't get me wrong, his counting stats are not up there. 18 points per game doesn't really get you there, but we've seen players be the third guy to make an all-star team or the second guy on a contender just because they're the second or third best player and they are good even if their numbers are not really there. So I could see that being the case with Wiggins, where it was like, I don't know, Chris Middleton when he averaged just 19 points per game, even though Chris is still a better player in that version of himself, but you get my point. It's not always stats, and winning can really help you in that case. I wouldn't be surprised if Andrew Wiggins was even an all-star. Now, he'd probably be the 15th guy on the team in terms of votes, but I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility. Now, I don't think that there has been grass on my shoe this entire time. That's great. Now, I don't think that this makes him not a bust, because to me, what a bust is a player who didn't live up to their expectations. And the case of Andrew Wiggins, he's somebody who didn't live up to their expectations. Now, whether or not those expectations were fair is a different conversation, but basing it on expectations, yeah, Andrew Wiggins was a bust. However, that doesn't make it impossible for him to be a really good player. He was just expected to be an unbelievable player. Instead, he's really fucking good. And the Warriors redeemed him from being a bad player to a good one, and he also put that work in himself. I don't want to credit entirely to the system that he's in, but I definitely think that played the largest part. He made incredible improvements as a shooter, and that's obviously on him. But yeah, that's the redemption of Andrew Wiggins. Shout out to Rudy for editing this video, especially on short notice. Did anyone notice that I'm wearing glasses? I figured I wouldn't mention it till the end here. Yeah, whatever. Shout out to Rudy. That is it. Goodbye.